This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
So it's been a while since we've talked about Toledo. We got a lot to talk about. Travis is exhausted because he spent every day this week on the golf course.
Well, driving range, but yeah, I gotta get ready for this trip. And I'll tell you what, I hit a quarter of a basket the other day when I went last Saturday, and that was after a week of being sick, which is why we didn't put out a Toledo episode. And I got like a quarter of the way through that basket, and I was like, I'm gonna die in 3 weeks when I'm on this trip. Like, I thought I would be mentally prepared for this, and I'm not. And I'm for those of you that don't know, I'm playing 5 rounds of golf in 5 days, and for somebody that hasn't played but one round in basically 2 years, it's going to be a lot very quickly.
You're going to be toast, bud. Like, it's going to be rough. See what happens when Nick leaves us unattended? This becomes a golf podcast immediately because the weather's finally starting to turn. I mean, I had to. You're over here saying you're tired. Oh, you've just been golfing, not working or anything. No.
Right. A 12:30 in the morning call out last night wasn't part of why I'm exhausted today.
No, not at all. Oh, all right. Let's jump into it. Welcome back to the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Travis.
And Nick is not with us. He is sick tonight. It's like we just pass it around the show at this point. Started with me, and then it's just been between you two this whole time, which is funny. We don't live in the same state. It's not like we're getting each other sick or anything, but none of us can stay healthy. But besides being exhausted, man, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready for a 3-3. It's gonna.
You got a busy weekend coming up.
Yeah, busy weekend. 3 games, 3 days, and it doesn't stop, right? And it's crazy because I think I seen on the calendar they only have 5 home games left. Like, the end of the season's quickly approaching.
Yeah, 3 of those 5 are this weekend.
Yeah,
like it's coming down to the wire here. It's getting to be the fun time of year. But like we alluded to, we have a ton to talk about. Before we even dive into the 3-paragraph long roster updates and news that we have to talk about that have happened with the Toledo Walleye in the last week, because that's right, you've turned into another Toledo Walleye update. The second episode of every week, as long as we get to that second episode, is a Toledo Walleye episode focused on all things fish, updating you on what's happened with them, what's going on, and what's upcoming with them. But before we dive into all of that, we do have to talk about the Battle of the Badges. I know this is 2 weeks old now, but we previewed it on this show. Travis interviewed one member from each team on the show before that happened, where the Toledo Police Department, the Toledo Fire Department hockey teams faced off, and what they told us was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals to them. And they can say that, and we'll be like, yeah, right. And then you go watch it, and you're like, holy crap. They take this seriously, man. And it was an absolute blast.
It was incredible. I didn't know what to expect. Like, it was my first one of these, and I think you said you went to one.
Yeah, I did the Grand Rapids one last year.
And, I got friends that are on both teams that I didn't even know until the day before that I had another teammate that played on the fire team. But it was so much fun. They were super generous to us. They did a lot for us, and we tried to give back to them what we can. I know we're going to put something together for them, and really just to see how passionate they were about it, and albeit just in a charity game.
Yeah. I mean, we saw everything from a lot of goals to goalie fights to guys getting injured. Like, they took it seriously, man. It was crazy. And if you missed the game, the police department won. I don't know how many wins that is in a row for them so far against the Fire, but it was a blast. It was a decent turnout too. We'd love to see that grow because yes, it's a charity hockey game, but they don't treat it as a charity hockey game, folks. They go all in. And let's just give this person their kudos here. the fire department goaltender, that full kit with the painted mask. Ooh, so clean. So clean.
Yeah, that was the one thing for me that I was like, whoa, like he has a full kit, not let alone like not just a white helmet, like fully painted. Like that was incredible.
Yeah, it was super cool. So like Travis said, we're putting something together. We'll have a ton of content. They were super generous to us and basically let us hang out in the benches with them. We did some interviews in the intermissions and pregame and postgame with them. We'll have a whole little video that we'll put together so they can share it out there. We'll share it out there to you guys as soon as it's done. It'll take some time for us to put it all together because I think between the two of us, there's probably 180, 190 different video clips to go through and put together. So that'll be a project for when life slows down. It's a really bad timing with the playoffs right around the corner for both teams here that we cover to do a project like that. But we'll get it out eventually and it'll be super cool. But again, thank you to them. I'm so glad everything went well for them. The event went off, I think, perfectly besides the 2 injuries, but it seemed like after the game, those guys were okay, just a little banged up. What we saw one of them back at the Walleye game that night, even after going out. So he was good to go. And yeah, I'm excited to come back next year, man. I'm excited to see what it grows into. And again, if you're in the Toledo area, you go to that game, you go to the Walleye game that night. And the jerseys the Walleye wore that night were also pretty sick too. Like we didn't know what to expect with the first responders jerseys, but well done.
Yeah, they were sharp. It was neat how they combined the red and the blue for the fire and the police. They did a really nice job. It was a well done kit, and it all matched.
Yeah, and the proceeds in the auction went to some of that went to charity too, which just helps that charity that they support. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was a couple different ones, but it just helps that grow, which is really awesome to see. Always love doing things that support good causes. We're always up for that around here. But outside of that, let's dive into the roster updates and news. And Travis, I'm going to throw it to you first here to get started with this because this list is long. And yes, we know some of this stuff is over a week old. And if you're a Walleye fan, you've known for a while, but we'll give our thoughts and opinions on it.
Well, the big piece last week, really, well, I shouldn't say that. There was like 4 pieces, and we got about 20 things to go over here. But Griffin Ness and Grant Gabriel's rights were traded to Utah for Cole Gallant, a center. In 58 games, had 6 goals, 26 assists, 32 points, and has played 3 games for Toledo. Hasn't gotten a point yet, but he's played up and down the lineup already. I think he was playing first-line center his first game, and work his way around the lineup as they're just trying to kind of mix and match and find what the right combinations are. And really, I mean, you hate to see Griffin go. You hate to see Grant's rights go. But I think it was a trade where they made a deal that got them what they needed.
They needed a center.
They needed a center, and as we're going to go through this list, they now have like 7 guys that can take faceoffs, and they had 4 prior. So it's kind of like you address a need, and you probably, I would assume that Grant probably wasn't coming back, would be my guess.
Yeah, I think that's what I gathered, at least until playoffs, because the poor Cleveland Monsters don't look like they're going to make the playoffs at this rate. Oof, that's something we'll talk about in the AHL episode next week. But at the same time, yeah, it didn't look like he was coming back. They needed a center. It does suck to see Griffin go because he showed those flashes of really consistent production. But at the same time, they had a need. They filled it. It makes sense.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is, like, if you kind of look at it through the whole season, like Griffin got off to such a hot start and maybe, cooled off a little bit, but you're acquiring a guy that's got some versatility, and it's a big thing. I think the biggest thing is, like, it goes back to just it was a position of need, and I think I've said it, it's way easier for centers to move to the wing than it is for wings to move to the center. So it's just a positional need that they addressed, and they continued to address it actually today with Billy. I'm probably going to butcher this, so I apologize, but Billy Moskal from Toronto University. He's a center as well. He had 28 games played this year, had 14 goals, 13 assists for 27 points. Former London Knight. Anytime you can pick up a guy that played for London, he's played in big games. He went on to play Canadian college. I believe it's called U Sports. I would have to go back and look.
I know nothing about that. I can barely
Yes.
keep the CHL straight. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, though, another, decent sized center. He's a center. Like, that's what he is. He's not like a guy that moves to the wing. He's a center. He's played center. So again, going back to addressing some needs, and gives you some flexibility to move guys around. Like, now you've got, and I guess we'll just jump into this one too. What made sense with this is Messina goes to the 3-day IR. So again, you needed a center. So they're just continuing to address needs while not giving anything up.
Which is ideal. That's what you want to do. You don't want to give up your key pieces to address these needs. And I mean, let's, talk about this point. Today was the deadline, the trade deadline for the ECHL. And that was the only move Toledo made, was that signing today. And I think that might have shocked some people, but per our friend Mark Monroe at the Toledo Blade, the team expects to get a bump from Grand Rapids. And we've kind of talked about this between both episodes, the Griffins shows and Toledo. What's that going to look like? And do we know? No, we don't know. We assume you'll get Carson Bantle back down the road here. But at the same time, they're expecting up to 3 players potentially per mark. So what that looks like, we don't know. And I know, Travis, you and I have talked a lot this week back and forth. Like, what does this lineup look like if it's a Hunter Johannes and Carson Bantle reassignment to Toledo going into the playoffs, what those two can do? That's a good boost when you look at all the other acquisitions we're about to talk about.
Yeah, you need depth, right? And that's the biggest thing. I know guys want size, and they had some size throughout the year with Bantle being here all year. Obviously not always called up, but you get, if those are the two that do end up coming down, and then I think we're going to get a goaltender.
I would assume so, but that whole situation,
that's the hardest.
I don't know.
That's the hardest thing to kind of get a grasp on. But yeah, I would assume that those would probably be the most likely. I think we know we're not going to get a defenseman from Grand Rapids.
You're not getting a defenseman from Grand Rapids.
And if they
most likely,
and like if Mark's saying potentially 3, I would presume it's probably going to be Hunter and Bantle, with maybe Jan coming back for the playoffs potentially. There's another element to all of this that could potentially throw a huge wrinkle into all this, but until that happens, we'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Yeah, nobody knows. Like, we've tried to ask our sources. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows why Jan was called up to Grand Rapids. Sorry, folks, we don't have answers for you. But the obvious answer to that is he's earned his shot. He earned his opportunity. And why not give it to him down the stretch in these meaningful games for Grand Rapids here and see what he can do? And he stepped in the net Saturday night and won the game. Granted, he wasn't really tested in that game very much, but he won an American Hockey League game as a goaltender. That's not an easy task. So he's earned the shot. The Griffins have games coming up this weekend. So does Toledo. Toledo did sign a goaltender that we'll talk about here right now that is expected to back up Carter Gylander this weekend. And hearing that kind of tells me that Jan's not coming back this weekend, the way that was phrased.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, who knows? It's not like Toledo's far away from Grand Rapids. The Griffins are home. The Walleye are home. Something crazy could happen, but you're looking at a weekend where you're potentially looking at Carter Gylander for all 3 games, which we've kind of seen every one of the goaltenders that's a Red Wings prospect recently go through a stretch like this, where it's like, yeah, you're playing back to back to back. Figure it out, kid. And they tend to figure it out. But they did sign this goaltender that's backing up, and who is he?
Nicholas Grabko. Again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the names.
We do that a lot here.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of get some clarity. Like you said, expected to kind of back up Gylander this week. It's neat because he played at Alaska Fairbanks this year. I mean that's not a very common like college, I guess you would say.
Right.
To see a player come in from, and he had 20 games played. Not a terrible goals against average at 2.74. His save percentage was 1 point below 900, so that's kind of interesting. It was sub 3, but also sub 900, so that'll be an interesting thing to where if he does, he did play a game for Idaho, and it did not go well. I seen like I'm not even gonna go there because people will go banana lands, and I don't want that for the poor kid. But the other element here is 2 guys that I watched were signed by the team this year, and I wish I'd have known that we were going to sign 2 guys from the Red Hawks when I was down there watching Arizona State. But the other 2 free agent signings out of college are Colby Ambrosio. He's played a couple games for Toledo. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist for 2 points. He had 7 goals, 13 assists for 20 points in 34 games. That led Miami's team in scoring this year. So, which is crazy because they have a phenomenal facility down there. So, but like Alex told me and my buddy Brian that was with us, like their coach has to go through and rebuild the entire program from the ground up. So it takes time.
That's tough.
But they got some size on defense. I know Ambrosio's maybe not the biggest guy in the world if you look at his elite prospects page, but Dylan Moulton, I believe he's around 6'2", so they got a little bit of size on the back end, which is nice. And again, you don't have to give anything up for him. He only had 7 points in 33 games, but he's already got a goal in Toledo. So guys
talk about signing 2 guys and they make an instant impact, which we kind of saw happen last year. You sign a couple of college guys and they made a pretty big impact right away too. It's like, okay, they're good at this in Toledo. They're good at finding some college guys that can come in and make an impact on the team, but it's exactly what you wanted to see after all the transactions over the last 2 weeks. You wanted to see production and you got it right away.
That's probably the greatest part of that, right? You get production right away. It's funny you bring up last year with them signing a couple guys, right? Those 2, I want to say Wilms was one of them, and they'd have to correct me on the other one. I don't think they lost a game until in the Western Conference Finals all season because they went undefeated in U Sports.
That's right.
They were like 50-0 all year. Like it was crazy. So, but like back to the 2 Red Hawks, it's good to see them come in and produce and get on the score sheet, get familiar with the systems and in place, and just kind of, go back to just playing hockey on a regular basis. Another little tidbit that I forgot with Nicholas, the goaltender, I believe Pat had him in Green Bay.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that too. Pat has a habit of finding guys that he had in Green Bay and bringing them to Toledo and usually getting some good stuff out of them right away. So who knows what the goalie situation is going to look like down the road. We can't speculate, and I won't put any feelers out there to it. We'll just assume Jan will be back there for the playoffs, obviously. But at the same time, like if he's not, they got to figure it out with Carter, and they're in good hands with Carter. Carter's a great goaltender, and I have all the faith in him to be able to go deliver. So it's going to get interesting. It'd be fun to update and just more stuff for us to talk about. It's podcast job security. That's all it is.
100%. And then just a couple other things. Gage Alexander hurt last Friday night. And
yeah, let's talk about this.
Placed on 14-day IR. Look, you feel so bad for him. He gets reassigned to Reading. Finally gets to play. Was playing well for Reading. He had pretty good numbers. Gets reassigned to Toledo and gets hurt in the first period of the game.
His first start with the Walleye all year. The guy's bounced back and forth between the Walleye and Grand Rapids, at least on paper, all season. Goes to Reading, like you said. Gets that first shot with the Fish and, hurt in the first period, and it looks like it's going to be long-term, which sucks. You just feel so bad. Like, it's not the player. I just feel bad for him as a person. Like, that's just brutal to go through. And you saw Mark post, the coaches felt terrible for him for the situation. And I think everyone in the room does. It's just not a situation you want to see any guy go through. So it really sucks.
It does. And you feel so bad for him and just hope that, he has a summer of getting healthy and, gets an opportunity, whether that's here next year, who knows where, but hopefully he just bounces back from it and gets to see some more consistency for playing time next year. I know we didn't get to talk to him, but from what all we've heard, he's just an incredible person. So
yeah, 100%.
And best wishes to him.
Yeah, 100%. And then I guess some positive news on the injury front. Adrian Beraldo skating again and expected to be with the team on the road on their next road trip. So that's a huge positive on the defensive side of things for the team. Kind of fills that gap that Redicop's leaving right now, still being out. Not entirely fills it, obviously. Redicop's a different breed of player. But at the same time, the Fish fans are familiar with Beraldo. I'm not. So tell me what to expect from him.
Well, he's not going to take shit from people. That's probably the one thing I can say and just be kind of blunt and honest about it. He plays tough. He's more of probably your stay-at-home guy. He's not going to go out and put up 40 goals. But
Yeah, they don't need that right now.
no, they got enough guys to score. I think it's just another option, right? We talked to Pat in the summer, and even this year he wanted to get out in front of like having defensemen, because last year it was such a like carousel of in and out and revolving door, and they've kind of had some stability for most of the year. So to get him back, and that's a big weekend next weekend. I know next week we'll preview that weekend. Let's get through this weekend first. But
Yes.
it's encouraging to know that, you're going to have a guy that he was pretty important last year, I would say, until he got hurt. So it'll be an interesting piece to see where he slots in the lineup, who does he play with, and hopefully he's back next week. I mean, that's the plan from what it sounds like. Anything can happen, but we're hoping that that's the case.
Yeah, 100%. So exciting stuff there. Update with Chaz Redicop after talking about him here. Everyone freaked out because Grand Rapids terminated his deal with the Griffins, which caused chaos for a couple hours till there was some clarity out there. But he has signed his ECHL deal and he's staying in Toledo. He's still out injured, but as of now, he's staying with Toledo. Crisis averted. No more need to freak out. Grand Rapids had to do it to make room for the amount of defensemen they had. I think at that point they had 9 or 10 signed, and that's too many. That's way too many. I know they don't have the roster limitations like the Walleye do, but at the same time, like, that's too many defensemen. So it all made sense, and I'm glad Chaz is still staying with the organization.
Yeah, hopefully he can get healthy and get into a couple games before the playoffs. Again, we don't have any timeline. I don't think anybody has any timeline outside of the team. So it's just kind of a wait and see thing. Hopefully he's back worst case scenario, hopefully he's back for the first game of the playoffs. Like, that's a huge piece that they could definitely benefit from getting back in the lineup. But on to probably the most cool piece of news over the weekend.
Oh, the most fun story out of the weekend. It sucks that it comes from a bad situation, but God, was it fun.
Yeah, Austin Kaiser, goaltending coach. We've had him on the show. Incredible guy. Just
a beauty.
Oh, when I see
he's a riot, man.
When I seen that he was gonna be the e-bug, oh my God, I was dying. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "Imagine being Carter and your goaltending coach is now your backup for the day."
Yeah, it's an experience I don't think he imagined having to go through this year. He was super excited about the opportunity, though. Everything we've seen posted about it, he was extremely excited. You saw Mark Monroe say before the game, Carter and Hawk were joking. The drill, Carter. You go down with a minute left so Ace can come in the game. Not a game which we'll talk about that he would want to come into at that point in time, but at the same time, if it was probably going the Walleye's way, I could have seen him pulling something like that, which would have been really funny. You saw the videos of him in warm-ups out there, and it just looked like they were all having fun. We'll have to get the full details on the story from him next time we see him, but at the same time, it's just a really cool story for him. When at the beginning of the season, you look at the team, you're like, they got 3 goalies. You wouldn't imagine anything like this. Then they end up needing an e-bug in Idaho. That story, let alone right there, was newsworthy with an older gentleman taking the reins that night. And then you get your goalie coach and video coach as your e-bug in Kalamazoo. Like, what a season for the e-bugs in Toledo.
What's funny, just like some of the one video I think the news posted, they were talking to him and he's like, "Yeah, I went out for breakfast," and they're like, "Hey, we need you to dress tonight." And he goes, "Get out of here," or something like that. And he goes, they were like, "No, seriously, like you have to dress tonight. Like we need an e-bug." And then like, I guess it was like part of like Kalamazoo's goalie's backup equipment mixed with some of Gage's equipment mixed with some of the other stuff that was just laying around. So it's crazy how in a pinch you can make things work. And I think I even was talking to him about it. And the funniest thing that I said was like, your stuff matched better than Carter's. Like
he did have red shorts on.
Well, outside of that, he looked like he was supposed to be on the team color-wise more so than Carter does.
Yeah, it was funny, man. It's cool, though. He had the full jersey stitched, name, number, and everything, and he said he's going to get the guys to sign it and hang it in his office. So that's a cool thing for him. So happy for Ace that he got that opportunity to hit the ice with the boys like that, and I cannot wait to talk to him about that whole scenario. I'm sure you're going to talk to him this weekend, and Travis, you better record it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I've been known to run into him a time or two downstairs.
Yeah, it's like he finds you. I don't know. You just find each other. It's meant to be. I don't know.
Guess.
I think that's it for updates around the roster and other crazy news around the walleye. Sorry, that was a lot to get through. And if you stuck with us through all that, we appreciate you. It's time to talk about some hockey games. There's 3 games from 2 weeks ago. We're going to scale through them real quick here because it's old news at this point with us not doing a walleye show last week. So the quick roundup there. Walleye win 2-1 over Wichita in overtime. Nice win there.
I want to point one thing out.
Yep.
Wichita's goaltender, former Walleye, he did everything possible to steal that game, and they just didn't win the game. Like Trevor Gorsuch, man, I remember when he got his first win for the Walleye. Like it's crazy. Like he had a full kit for Wichita, and that was just cool to see him back in Toledo. And he played unbelievable that night. So I just wanted to give a former Fish some flowers. And I think he still has a few friends on the team, he knows most of the team. So it's just a fun piece of information.
Extra meaningful one for him to come back to Toledo and try to steal a win, and he almost did. But I'm glad he didn't. While I get that win, next game 4-3 win over Cincinnati. It was nice to be at this game. It was a lot of fun for me. I always
that game.
Yeah, that's how long it's been, man. That's how long it's been. No, it was a great game overall. And yeah, man, that's all I got for that. Good game. Everyone knows the results of it. Everyone's seen the highlights. Move it on. Walleye win 5-2 when Atlanta comes to town, which again, just another team we don't see very often. It was nice to see them playing against another team. We know that Austin Kaiser, goalie coach, had enjoyed this one when they came to town because that's his former organization there. And I'm sure he was pretty thrilled to get the win over his former team.
Yeah, he was all smiles post game, and I love their uniforms. I was sad that they didn't have the ones that say Atlanta down the sleeve, but they do have I like Atlanta. I just think it's a fun market. They have the Thrashers. They do the Thrashers night. So whenever
That's
they
so
come
cool they still do that.
Yeah, it is. And whenever they come to town, it's always a fun matchup to watch and see a different team, right? Like we had Wichita in town, we had Atlanta. We get technically Wheeling's not in our division anymore, so we're out of division again this week. Florida next week. So it's been a very heavy dose of out of division. I think there were only like 12 games this year out of division, and I think like all of them are in March. It's just like
it's nice to see, man. It's nice to be able to. I wish we could talk more in depth on those ones, but this would be like a 2-hour episode if we recovered every game. But at the same time, it just speaks to fans want to see more teams from outside the division. I know it's tough with travel costs in these minor leagues, but at the same time, fans want to see it. I say the same thing every time we get a new team at Grand Rapids. Like when Hartford was in town, I was like, it's refreshing to see a new team before we got to see the Ice Hogs a million times here to end the season. Great. Like it's just so nice and refreshing for the fans to see new faces when they come in. And usually it's always funny too, because you don't see a lot of trades happen within divisions, obviously. So that's where you get more of the chances to run into former people that played for that for your team. And it just creates more fun, I think. So like, I want to see Hershey come back to Grand Rapids just for Todd Nelson to come back to Grand Rapids like that. I want all that to happen. I know it's probably not going to, but more out of division games, please. We're begging as fans.
I think the players are too, to be honest.
Yeah.
From what I've heard around the rink downstairs, and
it's even been said in post-game interviews.
It was fun too, because Pat's like, "Do you want an assistant tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So like he got the night off. I got to talk to Alden. That was fun. So I knew a new face for everybody to see and hear from in that game with Atlanta. So that was neat, and it's always fun to get a different perspective from time to time.
100%, man. Well, let's hit a quick ad break. When we come back, we'll talk about the last 3 walleye games a little more in depth than just telling you who won and who lost. And, of course, an update on the Central Division as we get closer and closer to the playoffs here. And our 3 stars of the last week, not 2 weeks, the last week for the walleye.
This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out. A game's left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And welcome back. All right, let's dive into some actual hockey games now. Enough of the talk. Let's get the recap going here. You got the Walleye traveling into Cincinnati this past Friday here to take on the Cyclones, and they come out with a nice 4-3 victory in a tight game in overtime. At least it wasn't overtime at home. You know, it's overtime on the road, but it's still overtime in Ohio. So I don't know what it is about overtime lately. We just love playing it. It's extra period practice.
Yeah, it's getting to be like rinse and repeat with overtime. Like, can we find another goal, please, before overtime?
Can we get that settled before the playoffs, please?
Yeah, let's hope this is all out of their system before the playoffs. Because
you think Travis is tired now at triple overtime at the Huntington Center,
man,
and work the next morning? He's gonna be dead man.
Especially when that alarm goes off at 5. It's like, ooh.
I
can't even imagine like a triple overtime game getting over at 1, going home 4 hours of sleep. Back at it.
The hockey grind, man.
It's
the hockey grind.
I know. And you know what? Hey, these guys ride the buses for 6-7 hours at a time. I'll manage.
You'll be fine.
I'll manage.
You'll be fine. They're not going to make you lace up and be the e-bug.
Yeah, God, for their sanity, I hope that never happens.
Oh, jeez. Let's talk about the game here. First period, 9 minutes in. Brandon McCallion gets his 5th of the season from Cruz, and Ambrosio getting his first point as a fish at this point, correct?
Yeah, that was a sick play. McCallion went all the way across, I believe, to Cruz, who then went all the way back across to McCallion. It was a sweet play, great passing, and it got him off and running about halfway through the period or so. So it was good to see Ambrosio get his first point and instant impact, kind of like we said earlier. So for him to come in and get an assist, that's huge.
Huge. Well, a minute and 14 seconds later, the Fish decided to take a 2-0 lead. Mitchell Lewandowski's 20th goal of the season from Brandon Hawkins and Bobby Russell. Nice goal here as well. Good to see Louis getting his 20th of the season, another 20-goal scorer on the team.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a net front play. Like Russell makes a shot, pass type thing, hits a defender, and Louis was just wide open and had a wide open net. So you know he's not going to miss on something like that. And it was huge to get and it was just huge to get the 2-0 lead. Like, seems like lately, like if they fall behind, they're playing catch up, or if they get the lead, they give it up. So it's huge to just kind of get the lead and build on it a little bit here. And then obviously, which you'll get into, it disappeared.
It disappeared rather quickly. Cincinnati does get back within one, a shorthanded goal before the end of the first period. It was actually about 2 minutes after Lewandowski gave them that 2-0 lead. No goals in the second period. Toledo gets outshot by Cincinnati in that period, 10-8. You go into the third period, 2 minutes, 20 seconds in. Cincinnati adds another. The Walleye respond, though, at the 16-minute, 8-second mark. Ambrosio gets his first goal as a Fish. 2-point game in his first night in Toledo.
Yeah, from really a tough angle. He's standing on the goal line and just kind of redirected it on net. I would bet that the goaltender would like to have that one back. It's kind of one of those that's like, you probably don't want to give one of those up, but for Ambrosio, 2 points in his first game, and just to see him, come in and make that instant impact, it's like, okay, we might have found something with a college signing this late in the year. That's a key piece, that to come in and have that kind of impact, that's huge when you're starting to think about, you're only about 4 weeks away from a playoff roster, and you're coming in this late. Like, you got to kind of make an impact if you want to stick around and be a part of this for the playoffs. Because that cuts come, so it's just kind of the reality of the situation. If you come in here and make an impact, you're not only making a name for yourself for this year, but also potentially for next year.
Oh, 100%. Sam Craig's also got the assist on that one there too as well. You think the Fish, at this point, they've got the lead. They might be able to run away with this one and avoid overtime, but unfortunately at the 18-minute, 58-second mark on the power play, Cincinnati ties the game. It goes to overtime, and then Sam Craig's 24 seconds in does the thing. He does the Kucherov, man. It was a beautiful goal. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, and if it was, that's ballsy to go for that. Hawk and Smerritt get the assist on that, but the focus has got to be on the Craig's goal here. Just absolutely insane.
Yeah, that was gross. It was literally, like you said, the Kucherov type thing. I'll have to ask him if he meant to do it or if he was trying to make a play to bring it to his backhand and then outweigh the goaltender, or if he full on said, I'm just going to try it, and it went in. But huge win to go down there and get a win to start a 3-3 with travel. To come out like that, that's a huge win. And the goal is just sick. It's on our Twitter. I think it's on everything at this point. If you have not seen it, you have got to watch it because it was gross. I think he even sent you you guys a text right away. It's so the Walleye won, and Sam just did the Kucherov on a partial breakaway in overtime.
That was the exact message we got when we were at a Griffins game, and I'm like, no way.
Because you guys were probably doing post-game when I sent you the text.
I was walking down the hallway towards the room when you guys got that text, and I looked at Nick, and I said, no way. And, yep, sure enough, it did happen. You're right. It is good to go down there, kick off the 3-3 with travel to get those points. It's even funnier that you gave Cincinnati a point to keep the bottom part of that division tight and keep it interesting. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But at the same time, like you said, big win. Cincinnati outshoots Toledo in this one, which is pretty crazy. 31-25. Cincinnati went 1 for 7 on the power play. The Walleye go 0 for 5, unfortunately. Just a penalty-filled game, which usually when these two teams clash, it gets a little dicey, and that's kind of exactly what happened in this one. And also, Carter Gylander starting in this one, stopping 28 of 31. So, nice win to start off the road trip. Keeping the win streak at this point alive, too. I don't know how many games it was at that point, but they were on a nice little run there.
Yeah, I think it was at 5, maybe 5, I think it was 5, and then the next night made it 6 or something. It was in that ballpark.
Spoilers, Travis.
It's been a long 2 weeks, so bear with us.
Spoilers, yes. The Toledo Walleye go to Kalamazoo on Saturday night, and we have another overtime game on our hands here that the Walleye end up winning 5-4. And if you asked me at the end of the first period who was winning this game, it was not going to be the Toledo Walleye. I thought Kalamazoo was just going to do what Kalamazoo tends to do to us in Kalamazoo. How many times did I just say Kalamazoo? And yeah, right. And walk away with a win here. I just kind of stroll away with a win. Scoring in this game, I get to say the guy's name now. Here we go. Moulton. Dang it.
I'm going with Moulton.
We're going with Moulton. First goal as a Walleye to kick things off. 3 minutes, 42 seconds in from Sawyer and Hawkins. Again, more instant impact, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was out to eat with my wife and her parents, so you were actually kind of partially tuned in. I know you were Griffin stuff too, and I wasn't
watching any of this. To be honest, I was just watching the highlights Toledo would post for this one, unfortunately, because I had to be really dialed in for that Griffins Rockford game because it was a weird game. But at the same time, the feed was so bad on Flow that night, the Walleye could barely post anything.
Yeah, the feed was horrible. And
yeah,
again though, back to just getting a guy that comes in from a team that maybe didn't have a great year. So you don't really know fully what you're getting from anybody. Because they're good players, right? Because you've brought them in, you feel like there's something there, and they find it right away. That's huge. And probably the biggest thing is that it's a defenseman coming in and making an impact at that point, that early in a rookie career, basically.
Yeah, it's not what you'd expect, but you're happy that you got it at that rate, right? So the Walleye, like we said, start off the game great. Then Kalamazoo decides to add 3 goals in the first period there. Take a 3-1 lead. At least at this point, though, the Walleye do get back within 1. Conlon Keenan, his 3rd of the season. at the 17-minute, 7-second mark of that first period there, Swoyer gets his second point of the night with the primary assist. Cruz got the secondary assist, and you go out of the first period down 3-2. But with the way Kalamazoo kind of charged back after that first goal, you're happy with 3-2 at that point. You're like, okay, we're safe. This is good. Everything's fine. You go into the second period, 1 minute, 28 seconds in, Kalamazoo adds a goal. Then you go, crap. This is getting out of hand very quickly. Go to the third period, no more goals after that one. Toledo responds again, though. Gets back into this game. Nolan Moyle, his 6th of the season from Hawkins and Smerick on the power play. You're back within 1, and things are all good, right? You're happy. But that Moyle goal, one, good to see him finding the back of the net again. Absolutely love to see that when he's doing that. Smerick and Hawk on the assists, you could copy-paste that for a lot of goals throughout the season. They tend to do that. But another getting a power play goal after going 0 for 5 the night before is huge.
Well, and it was all effort, right? Like, it was a net front scramble. A puck got through the goaltender, is loose, and they just jammed away and tapped it in. And I think the biggest thing is, like, look, you're entering the third period. You're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, if we can get one by, like, the 10-minute mark, or at worst, 5 minutes left to go in the game, you kind of give yourself an opportunity. Then you can pull the goalie late, try to tie it, go on in there. But to get one earlier kind of takes that pressure off and gave them some momentum, which then carried on later in the period.
Yeah, for sure, because Mitchell Lewandowski adds his 21st of the season, goals in back-to-back nights there for Louis. Smerick and Hawkins with the assist on that. Like I said, you can just copy-paste that for quite a few goals in the season. We got a tie game. Goes to overtime. 7 shots aside, no goal. Goes to the shootout, and it might be a homer thing when I see this, but when I see Toledo going to the shootout, I kind of just write the W on the board already because they have so many gross, disgusting shooters on this team that it's not really fair to the opposition when you go into a shootout. And yes, of course, in this one, the Toledo Walleye walk away with this win. Kalamazoo shot first. Hawk shot second. He scores. Kalamazoo shoots again. No goal. Lewandowski went up. No goal for him, unfortunately. Ben Berard goes out there for Kalamazoo. No goal for him. And that's all she wrote. We got to talk about one thing with this game. It's the big stat that sticks out to me right when I look at it. The shot count. 47 for Toledo and 43 for Kalamazoo. What a night to be a goalie.
I'm going to say this. I'm not going to lie. I didn't know Gage got hurt, and I thought it was a short leash. And I was like, man, really? It's a 1-goal game? And then I found out he was hurt. So I was like, well, damn, I hope he's okay. And then I find out that, they scored on, like, Carter's first shot, and I'm like, my God, nothing is going right. Like, nothing's going right. And when you hear, 47 and 43, like,
yep.
Clearly this was not a playoff style game to where it's tight. The score's tight, but it's one of the nights where it probably feels like everything's going in and the 80s are back. Like, it's just kind of the reality of what it was. It was just like everything's going in, shoot it at the net, good things happen. And Guylander to come in and go 23 of 24 and stop all 3 in the shootout, that's huge, right? And we didn't even talk about the save he made on Friday night.
No, we didn't, because it was unreal. Clips on the Twitter pages, clips on every social media page of ours at that point. That save was freaking insane.
Yeah, he had 2 phenomenal games back to back like that. And I'm not going to lie, though. I kind of dug the green uniforms from Kalamazoo. I got major North Stars vibes. Like, I got major Minnesota North Stars vibes, but I hated the ice. The ice looked horrible.
Travis hates painted ice. Travis hates it more than anything. And watching the feed with Kalamazoo's camera that I think is still from when the arena was built, it made it really hard to watch. It makes it so hard to watch. I see why you hate it. In person, I think it's super cool, but on TV, at least in Kalamazoo, because I think like 3 of the Walleyes games in Kalamazoo this year have had painted ice.
One of them,
I know the purple game they did. I don't know if the rainbow game was Toledo or not. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. I think no. There was another. It was the orange ice.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, it was the orange ice.
Like, that rainbow one that's a lot happening there. Like,
There's a lot happening when you're watching that one on TV.
The solid colors, it's hard to kind of follow the puck, but then you get like 4, 5, 6, 7 colors on the ice. It's like, where's the puck at? So, but hey, I'll say this. I give them credit because they like make that color pop.
Oh, it's very well painted on there. Like, it's impressive that they've figured out a way to do it every year, and then the next game, it's like it never happened. It's insane because the Walleye play Kalamazoo again on Sunday, and you're like, oh, look at the ice is normal, and there's not even a tint of green to that ice. They do a great job with that. I'll give them a ton of credit there because that is not easy for the ice crew to deal with. There's no way.
It can't be easy, and I'll say this, Toledo definitely probably wanted the green ice back because the Sunday game did not go well.
Yeah, do we even have to talk about this one? Come on.
No,
Okay.
because dead serious, I fell asleep in the second period because, again, I was just exhausted. Long days.
Yeah, too much golf out there.
Coming off being sick, like, I just kind of dozed, and from what I watched, like, this is what happened. They converted on every big chance they got in Kalamazoo. Like, they had 5 prime chances, and they scored on all 5. Toledo had, like, almost 45 shots again and got shut out. And this is the second time this has happened this year that I can think of. The other one was in Iowa, where they lost, I think it was 2-0, and it was a 1-0 game with, like, I don't know, 2 minutes left when they scored an empty net goal. And I think Toledo had 43 shots in that game. So it's just one of them days. The season's not over. Let's not panic.
No, God, no.
Now, I will say, in Kalamazoo's defense, they've scored, I think I counted it was 4 goals in 9 of their last 10 games. So that team is scoring at a crazy rate right now. So when you're kind of looking at first-round matchups, potentially of who you're going to play, I don't know if that's the team you want to face right now with how well they're scoring.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It is crazy for 44 shots on goal and to get shut out. Like, that is truly just a night where nothing is going your way. And at the other end, Carter has to face 28 shots playing I wouldn't say he didn't play a full 3 games, but he only missed 1 period over these 3 games with travel this weekend on the road. Like, that's a tough ask. And
it just wasn't their day.
It
really,
wasn't. And like you said, they capitalized on every good opportunity they had, and that's what sucks. But yeah, a 5-0 loss with 44 shots on goal, you don't even review that. You're just like, yeah, everything was against us. We woke up this morning and the world was against us at that point. There was no winning at that. So credit to Kalamazoo. They figured out how to score a lot of goals really quickly here recently. They've made a lot of changes and a lot of acquisitions on that team to kind of beef up and try to go on a playoff run. And it's crazy because when I looked at those stats at the end of the game, I was like, Vorva had to start back-to-back nights, right? Like, that's the goalie that usually figures out a way to make the Walleye look silly. And it was Lemieux, and I have not seen
that bad. I think Lemieux's
the Walleye always seem to find a way around him, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, they seem to really get him rattled, and this night he was dialed.
Yeah, he does. He's had some off nights, but he's also some great nights against Toledo. And the one thing I want to point out too, it's not really in relation to either of these games or the goaltenders that played, but like, again, another like successful fan trip up there. There's a lot of fans in that corner. I know that it's easier for the guys when you've got some noise getting pumped into the arena when you're on the road like that. So it's a huge credit to the fan base, and we've talked at wit's end about just how crazy this fan base is and how special they are. So to see that trip again and how well they do that, like, it's incredible how many people make that trip.
Yeah, if you're unaware of what we're talking about, there's several Kalamazoo games in the season where the Walleye fan group gets together and travels up here for the game. And it's usually 2, 3, 4 sections of the Wings Event Center that they'll take up. And they are loud, rambunctious, and they do not stop. Sometimes I've gone and sat in that section before and wondered if it was a home game for Kalamazoo or a home game for Toledo. It's insane how many fans will travel up and how into it they still get. They bring the Huntington Center with them every time. So major credit to the fans. Those are always fun games for me to try to make my way down to. I was so sad that my schedule wouldn't let me do it this past weekend. It's very rare when the Walleye are in Kalamazoo that I'm not there, at least for one of the games. And we had 2 opportunities to do it, and I missed them both. So sorry to let y'all down. I know one of them, Nadine, like she was like, yeah, we'll see you there, right? And I was like, I will be there Sunday. I was not there Sunday. And I'm, well, looking at the result, glad I wasn't there Sunday because post game would not have been fun.
I'm just going to say this too. I hope that's their last trip to that building. Like,
it's not.
What do you mean? You think they're going to get them in the playoffs?
Oh, I thought you meant like their new arena that's coming.
No, I'm saying the old building because getting out of there sucks.
Getting out of there is a nightmare. Do I think they'll meet them in the playoffs? Well, that's a perfect transition point to update everyone on the ECHL Central Division, because last time we talked about the ECHL, we mentioned how close that fourth place spot, that final playoff spot was. Not much has changed since we last talked. It is still tight. There's a little bit of separation, but not by much. So the division, the way it goes now, obviously Toledo's in first. They have officially clinched their playoff spot. They're the first team in the division to do so. Toledo's sitting at 86 points on the season in 62 games played. Fort Wayne behind them at 77 points. Iowa in third at 72 points. And this is where it gets spicy. You got Bloomington still holding down that fourth place spot at 59 points, with Kalamazoo tied with them at 59 with a game in hand on Bloomington. And then you've got in sixth place, Indy still hanging out there at 56 points. So 3 points behind Bloomington and Kalamazoo. They have a game in hand on Bloomington as well. Then you got Cincinnati back at the bottom there at 54 points with 60 games played. So Kalamazoo and Indy, a game in hand on both Bloomington and Cincinnati here. I don't know what this is going to shake out to be. I really don't. If I'm a betting man, I know you don't want that answer, Travis. It's probably going to be Kalamazoo, especially if they're figuring out how to score 4 goals a game.
Yeah, with how they're scoring, that's probably going to end up being who it is. I'd like to see Bloomington just to see the expansion team make the playoffs. I think that'd be a fun little tidbit. It'd also be cool for Indy to get in the playoffs with their new building. I don't want to go back to Fort Wayne, not Fort Wayne. They're going to make the playoffs. I meant Kalamazoo. I don't really want to go back to Kalamazoo. And since he's still hovering around, they're not out of this. But
no.
The math for them is not very good. Looking at it right now, they've got the playoff tracker. You look at, possible points. They only can get to 78. And for Bloomington, they can get to 83. Kalamazoo can get to 85, and Indy can get to 82. So Cincy's math is not good, and you kind of just, who's gonna pull away here, or is it gonna come down to the last weekend? Is anybody gonna catch fire and pull away? It really reminds me of the whole Ottawa, Toronto, or Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo. Who's gonna be the team to go? And obviously right now it's Ottawa, but to bring that back to this, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Kalamazoo? Is it going to be Indy? Is it going to be Bloomington? Because I don't think Cincy's going to do it. I think their math doesn't look good. I just don't see it for them.
I would agree. I think you could basically mathematically eliminate Cincinnati at this point. So between Indy, Kalamazoo, and Bloomington, I think I agree with you. I'd rather see Bloomington. I'd rather see the expansion team make the playoffs. I think it's going to be Kalamazoo, which sucks for me because the temptation to go to every game that they're in Kalamazoo is going to be there. And I don't have the bandwidth for that this season like I did last year. And yeah, so it needs to be Indy or Bloomington to take that temptation away of the Walleye being 40 minutes away.
Yeah, that's going to be fun for you because you're also going to have to juggle Griffins too. So.
Oh yeah, it's like we said earlier, the grind is coming. It's around the corner, man. Playoff time is a fun time. It's an exhausting time for folks that cover the teams. We still haven't figured out what our full plan is for what episodes will look like during that time. If you've watched the show for a minute now, you know after every Griffins playoff game last year, we did an immediate post-game recording. I don't know if we're doing that this year. I'd like to do it this year, but we have to figure out some details. When it comes to Toledo, I'd love to be able to do that. I don't think Travis could mentally do that with having to be up for work at 5 a.m. every day because this is not our day job.
Games are,
yeah,
depends.
right. Travis needs every playoff game to be an afternoon game.
Well, last year we had a lot of Friday, Saturdays at home, so that's not as bad. But I don't know. It'll be fun. Listen, it could be a lot worse, right? It could be way worse. Honestly, I don't want to say worst case scenario, best case scenario is they both go to the finals, and we're doing this till June.
For those that couldn't see, I just died in my chair. Yeah, I mean, of course, that's what we want. Like, we want that to happen. Mentally, I just went, oh, God.
It's
Oh,
a
no.
hey, it's a long grind, and I'm sure if Nick hears that, he's probably like, I didn't even think of that.
100% did not think of that, and he'll probably get sick 3 times during the playoffs at the rate things are going, and you'll probably do for about 2 and myself 1, and let's hope not. Like, let's just have fun with it. It will be fun. Playoff time. It's special, man. I'm excited that it's right around the corner, and we're going to have 2 teams to talk about this year again that are both going to be in the playoffs. I know the Griffins haven't officially clinched their spot, but I mean, they're not missing the playoffs. Everybody in the AHL makes the playoffs, so we'll have them to talk about for at least a first round and hopefully many more after that.
It's just crazy how fast this year went. Like, looking at this right now, like Toledo's got 9 to go. Like, they've played 10 to go. Sorry, 72. So they've got 10 left, and like, it's just nuts. Like, you got 3 this week, 2 next week, and then all of a sudden you're down to 5, and all of a sudden it's then April. So it's gonna be fun to watch this battle for 4th play out. Obviously, there's still 4 teams in it. I think it's really a 3-team race, kind of like we alluded to, and the seeding for. I mean, if you look at it, you've probably got it pulled up. I mean, Fort Wayne's kind of pulling away from Iowa a little bit there.
Yeah, 77 points to the 72 points there. And Fort Wayne has a game in hand on Iowa. So they have kind of pulled away to lock down that second place spot in the division. I don't think the math would with them catching Toledo. It would take a collapse on our end for that. So the Toledo Walleye should win the Central Division again. But should we update the folks on who else is already clinched in the ECHL?
Yeah, we sure can. Looking at it right now, still nobody out west. Like,
the Mountain Division is up for grabs still, which is crazy. And Idaho is still on the outside looking in.
Yeah, that's the one thing for me that just still to this is so bizarre. Like, I would have had them in the top, maybe 2 or 3. Again, Tahoe's playing unbelievable. They're having a great year as an expansion team. Tulsa, they made the playoffs, I believe, last year. Walleye fans will remember them for the 2019 run. They played them in the West Finals, so it's just it's a lot of craziness with it. And honestly, just to see where we're at, and then you go to the South, there's only 1 playoff spot left, and it's pretty much clinched. Like, it's going to be Orlando, which is insane, right? Because when Orlando came to town, they were like in the cellar, and I think Toledo lost 2 of 3 to them, and then everybody was like, we just lost to like bottom team in their division, and now they're in the playoffs, or will probably be. Their magic number is 6 points, and the next possible team is Atlanta. They need 23 to get in. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure they've got that on lock. And it's crazy when you look at that South Division too. What, 3 of the 4 teams that'll be clinched are all in Florida.
Yeah, with Orlando, Jacksonville, and obviously the Everblades. I'll just say this now, that might be the division. Like, if you got some time to watch a different division in the playoffs, that's going to be the division to watch. Like, especially if South Carolina ends up playing Florida in the second round. It's kind of headed that way. That's going to be war. Some of these second round matchups this year that we could be very interesting to watch. And again, like, South Carolina's having a great year. Florida's clinched. Jacksonville's clinched. Solar Blazers need 6 points. So the state of Florida, man, it's all of a sudden the hockey state. Like, you had back-to-back cups with the Lightning. They went to a 3rd straight final. The Panthers have gone to 2 straight finals in the NHL. Now you've got the Everblades. They're going for a 4-peat in the ECHL. Like, all 3 of their teams are going to make the playoffs this year. So it's
crazy what happens, what sunshine and no income tax will do for a team, right?
I guess so. It's amazing how that works. And it's just cool to see the non-traditional markets, like, starting to figure it out. Like,
yeah,
it's neat because, like, for years, Friedman's even said on 32 Thoughts, like, Florida's a sleeping giant. They just got to figure it out. And once they figured the business side of it out, all of a sudden they're a giant. And with where you look at like the Everblades are at, you're not far from Fort Myers. Like, who wouldn't want to live in Fort Myers and get to play hockey? Like,
Yeah.
so
No complaints here.
It's an easy draw, right? So that's kind of your south. And then you look at the north, right? From almost folded to first place.
Three Rivers, man. First place, clinched a playoff spot. No one else has clinched yet. But yeah, like you said, folded to first is an absolutely insane storyline.
It is. It's a remarkable story for them to almost basically be done at this point. It was almost about this point in the year last year, maybe a little earlier, but they get saved at the 11th hour, like literally like last minute. They're going to end up staying in the league, and now they're having a great year. Wheeling moved to that division, and they're in second place. They pretty much got her wrapped up, I'd say.
I don't know. Second and third are close.
Well, I mean, just
2 points.
Just getting in. Like, they're going to be in the
yeah.
playoffs. So that'll be a tough matchup. Norfolk, they're probably in. You're looking at that. And really, you got another 2-pony race for fourth place with Reading and Worcester.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It's
crazy how the Railers, as they so kindly tweeted out the other day, get railed, and everyone freaking, oh my
that
God.
was epic. I wonder, because you know how the Walleye did the, like, players take over the Twitter?
I wonder if it was that.
I wonder if it was a player that said get railed, because
That's hilarious.
that was a home run tweet. That was so funny.
I got everyone in the hockey social media side attention for sure. Everyone going, is that going to get deleted? Like,
yeah,
it didn't.
Yeah, it was a funny little tidbit on a random weekday. I believe it was a weekday that got tweeted out too. So
So I'm going to ask you an off the cuff prediction here before we get to our 3 stars of the week for Toledo and end this episode. Your finals prediction in the ECHL, if it ends the way it looks right now.
Jesus God.
You're welcome.
I mean, I'll go Homer and say us.
Well, you have to. Like, you'd probably get run off the show if you didn't.
Right. I'm going to say us just for the Homer sake. South Carolina.
Ooh.
I don't think Florida does it. I think South Carolina's. I think they're really tough this year, and I think that South Division's going to be a utter gauntlet to get out of in that second round series.
So you think in the East, the person in the finals will be from the South Division?
Yeah, I think so.
Or the team, I should say.
I think honestly, Florida might have their hands full with Jacksonville. Like, if
you got 3 teams, that could possibly get over 100 points in that division.
Yeah, looking at it, you got possible points 111, 110, and 102.
Insane.
Well, in South Carolina, Florida could still get first and play Orlando, but like you could potentially get a second or a first round matchup of Florida and Jacksonville or South Carolina, Jacksonville. So I think the winner of that division is going to win the East. I don't. It's tough, right? Like.
Yeah, no, it is tough because playoff it's a whole different breed. A team that's running away with the league could fail in 4. It could get swept in 4 games.
You look at like a dark horse, or not dark horse. Let me rephrase that. You look at the other division, like you got Three Rivers, Troy Rivieras, however you say it.
Riviere.
And then a little bit of chaos for second, third, fourth, right? That South, man, you look at that and it's like, man, there's 3 heavy hitters right there just waiting for the playoffs to start. So I don't think Florida does it this year. What I want to happen is Toledo and Florida in the finals, and we end the streak that started with us. Like,
start our own.
Yeah, start our own with the guys that got you. So, which you could have a finals preview next weekend. So that's a potential thing that we'll get into next week. But I think I got a feeling South Carolina is going to do it out of the South. That's my kind of pick right now. I like that division's so heavy that Florida's going to have their hands full, I think. Until Cam Johnson goes out there and has a .2 ER or a .2 goals against average and like a .990 save percentage like he does in the playoffs, which is ungodly insane, but
See, I'm with you in wanting it to be Toledo and Florida just for that one reason. I'm also with you in saying it will probably be Toledo and South Carolina. It's funny to think that it could, because you never know what happens in the playoffs, it could possibly be Toledo and Wheeling. And you think of the travel distance between the two, it's not far. And it could create just utter chaos with how many Walleye fans would travel to every one of those Wheeling games. So
it's not long ago that a few friends of this show beat a Wheeling team in the championship series.
Not long ago. You're
Cup
correct.
Finals.
You're correct.
That'd be fun, right? To get like an old Central Division matchup, but
I don't think it's going to happen. It's very unlikely that would happen, but at the same time,
long way to go.
Could be really fun for all the storylines.
Here you go. Since you threw me under the bus, I guess we can both if you were going to pick a winner from each division, who do you have pick one winner from each division to win?
I'm picking the conference finals here for each one.
No. I'm just saying you look at here I'll go. So North Division, who could I see winning it out of that division? I'm going Troy Rivera's, right? And then I'm
going them too.
So South, I would say South Carolina.
Yep. This isn't very fun. We're not disagreeing with each other. I'll throw you off.
I thought you'd pick Florida.
I just think South Carolina's too good. I really do. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of their games, obviously, this season. I don't really have time for that, but I do think they're too good. I could see Jacksonville doing it. Just to be different than you, I'll say Jacksonville. Why not?
I could see it. That division's going to be must-see television.
Yeah, we'll be watching a lot of those playoff games for sure.
Obviously, we're both going to pick Toledo in the Central.
Duh.
We'd both get killed and put in a body bag and thrown into the Maumee River if we didn't pick Toledo.
100%.
So, the Mountain, though, man, Tahoe.
I have my
cool.
pick.
Tahoe be cool.
That's my pick.
But
if you ask any guy in the Toledo locker room who they want to go play for the conference finals, they're gonna say Tahoe. Who wouldn't want to go to Tahoe?
Right.
At that time of year, especially. Oh, sign me up.
I say this though, just as a off the wall pick here, if you get the goaltending that Gorsuch gave Wichita, if they get in, if he plays the way they played in Toledo, they're going to be a problem in that Mountain Division.
Yeah. It's crazy when you look at the Mountain Division too, is all four of those teams all possibly just shy of 100 points.
This year, man, it's been crazy just to look at possible points where guys could finish. You looking at it right now, there's one in the North. You could get 3 in the Central, or 3 in the South, I'm sorry. 2 in the Central, and you could have 7 teams with 100 points.
Insane.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's been a crazy year. I mean, like I said, it's insane.
It's been a big one for the ECHL. I think this is the most coverage I've seen the ECHL get in a long time, which is really good to see. And I think it's only going to continue to grow at this point. If you're not watching ECHL hockey at this point, I don't know why you're not. The product is great. The matchups are super fun. And the playoffs are it's hockey playoffs. There's nothing better. Yeah, it's not the Stanley Cup up for grabs, but these guys go out there and play like it is. So I'm excited for it. Like I said, the South Division there, if there's a playoff game on down in that division and I'm not doing anything, that'll probably be on TV. Let's be real. That's going to be fun hockey.
Or at least on the iPad while you got the Stanley Cup playoffs on the TV.
Maybe one will get demoted. It depends on how good the action is. You never know.
That's true.
First round of the Stanley Cup playoffs is the best, and then everything else after that, it kind of just...
Oh, yeah. It's easily. Yeah. I've said that for years. It's the healthiest everybody is.
Oh, 100%. And there's always a game on TV. That's the best part. And when you talk about watching 3 leagues, there's always a game on TV.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It is great.
I'm to the point where I'm scoreboard watching other teams in the Central and the AHL now. I was watching the Milwaukee game last night, the Texas game last night, and the Rockford game. And it was a great night for the Griffins in the Central Division.
Yes, it was. They got a lot of help last night.
They really did. I was very thankful for that. All right. Wrapping this episode up, your 3 stars of the week for the Toledo Walleye over the last week.
So third place, I'm going to go with Ambrosio.
Love it.
Goal and an assist. Second star, I'm going to give Craigs. I mean, the overtime winner alone, that was gross. And then Hawk, I think he had 5 points in 2 games. So he knows. Just another day in the office for him. But that's kind of where I'm at. I think we kind of agreed on that.
100%. I can't disagree with a single one of those. Ambrosio gets his first week of being a star on the Hockeytown West podcast. Just another thing for him to boost his ego over there a little bit, coming to the new team and gets mentioned right away like that. Craigs, that goal that alone could have earned him first star.
Oh, absolutely. You could split hairs and give somebody else a star too. And it's funny you mentioned that about Ambrosio. What do you think? If he scores tomorrow or he scores this weekend, and I talked to him, he's probably it's a podcast for AA hockey team. I guess it just shows the loyalty to the fan base, right?
It's always fun when new guys come to town and get that first experience in Toledo, because it's always a question you have to ask. What did you think of that? Because as we've said countless times, it's an otherworldly experience in the world of hockey when you're in Toledo. Has anyone told him about the hit somebody yet? I hope not. I hope you see him just jump on the bench.
I mean, my favorite one was Hunter when he's like, let's go.
Yeah.
But it's
100%.
It'll be fun, and hopefully we get a little clarity as we get closer to the playoffs of kind of reassignments and what we can kind of be okay, who's going to be on the roster, who's not, as we go forward. It's not a fun thing to talk about because, we love everybody, but those are tough decisions that are coming. So you're going to want to see, everybody's going to be playing their best to kind of put their last, keep me, I guess.
Yeah.
The best tape
100%.
out there. That's the thing too, where there's always something to play for. You're always playing for something. Toledo wants home ice. Looking at this here, Kansas City, they could get to 107. Toledo could get to 106. And they have a game in hand. And they're 1 point behind us. So
oof.
It's going to be
fun to watch.
It's going to be a fun stretch run here for the last 10, 11 games for these two teams.
100%. And then next week's episode, we have a fun weekend of Toledo Walleye hockey to preview in that one. So be ready for that one when it comes out here. That is where we will wrap this episode up. Thank you everyone for tuning in this week. As always, the Thursday episode of the show or the Friday episode, whenever the heck it comes out at this point, the second episode of the week is always focused on the Toledo Walleye. So if you're looking for Grand Rapids Griffins action, we'll be back Monday or Tuesday with that, depending on how this weekend goes, with an exciting recap of their home and home not home and home, but they're back-to-back at home this weekend against the Rockford Ice Hogs. But as always, before we end the show, we got to thank our sponsors, DraftKings, and of course, Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure when you're shopping with Everything Hockey, you're using code WEST. Save a few bucks off your order. So head over to everythinghockey.com, pick up a new hoodie, new t-shirt. Again, they released new designs within the last 2 weeks since we talked last. And of course, they're always fantastic. There's a couple of new ones actually that I might have to add to the collection here because Michigan keeps telling me it's hoodie season, and then the next day they tell me it's winter coat season. I really don't know because it snowed this morning and it was great. Hate it. But anyways, when you're shopping with Everything Hockey, make sure you use that code WEST, though. It supports the show and saves you some money as well. But of course, without our Patreon subscribers, the show would not be possible. And we've got to thank every one of them right now. And that would be Claire Boughton, John in Florida, Elaine Grace, Griffin, Randy, Derek, Lori, Alan, and Michael. Thank you all for supporting the show. And if you want to join the lovely folks that have already supported us, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Check out the tiers we have over there and how you can support the show. We post unedited episodes over there, bonus content when we have it. We do exclusive Patreon recordings when the time allows and the whole show's not sick or busy with work or getting called into work at 12:30 in the morning. It's just real life things. But it's the easiest way to support us and allows us to do more things for you guys and upgrade the content that we provide you. So like I said, if you want to head over and support that, patreon.com/HockeytownWest podcast. We appreciate all of those who already have. That is where we'll end this one. Thank you all. Have a fantastic weekend. And as always, go Griffins, go Walleye, and we'll talk to you all again soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.